Good morning, friends of the channel. If you missed yesterday's live stream, no worries. I'm here today to enlighten you. Yesterday, we introduced 3 fantastic new products that create a truly on-trend, contemporary effect. What are these products? An exceptional product, which is real rust that activates with its own activator and will create real rust for you, because inside there's actual iron powder on any type of surface you wish. Even on glass, plastic, or a more substantial patina on a different piece of furniture, even on a wall. The product is exceptional because it adheres on its own to any surface, obviously being magic paint, without the need for a primer. And this is the real breakthrough. Usually, products that create rust need a base, a primer, then there's the rust product, the activator, and then something to seal it. So, today we're going to show you how to achieve real rust simply by using 2 products and sealing it with a magic paint protective finish of your choice, whether that's wax or a protective coating. And that's one thing. But there's another really great new feature. These 2 amazing patinas that are activated simply with alcohol, and here I have put 99 degrees alcohol in a spray bottle. They are 2 beautiful patinas. I've called one Cannella and the other Alloro because they are quite unique. You apply them over a magic paint base color of your choice, and they become unpredictable depending on how you activate them with alcohol. So here too, you can really let your imagination run wild. But since the queen of real rust, fake rust, faux wood, and everything to do with imitation materials, as you've seen over the years in her wonderful courses all over Italy, even with faux marble, is Alessandra.
Hi everyone.
The courses start straight away. We already have some dates set, and as always, the resellers trust you and don't even know what you're up to. So I'm really pleased. Today we'll be working together. Of course, she studied with me everything we can show today, but obviously there will be much more in the courses. Let's get started. Let's get started. You should say it too. Let's get started. Careful. One fundamental thing when you buy magic paint rust is to keep the tin like this. Why do I recommend this? Because, of course, inside there are real metallic pigments which, due to their weight, can obviously sink. So, it's clear that if you leave the tin still for a while, some of it can settle at the bottom. This also happens with well-made paints. Why do I say well-made? Because if you take, for example, True Love, Nuit Dama, very pigmented, very strong colors with an extremely high percentage of pigmentation, they can normally create sediment at the bottom because these are products with a high concentration. So you don't need to worry. Just store it upside down. Then when it's time to use it, turn it the right way up, open it, and mix it really, really well. For as long as a song lasts, you know I always tell you this. Please remember this, whether you bought it from the website or from a retailer, it's always better, and of course this goes for our sellers too. Always keep them upside down.
We'll revisit this often.
I shouldn't have called it rust. I should have called it busty and contrary. You're still on time, aren't you?
By now we're used to your exploits.
Let's do it. And here I already come across a little bit of sediment, but it's not a problem because it's normal. There's iron powder inside and it happens. So look here, this is a product I made, put together a week ago, and it already has a bit of sediment, but nothing happens. It's simply the metallic pigment settling at the bottom. So now, calmly, I sit here and give it a really good stir, over and over, and once it's all nicely mixed, I have the perfect product. So today, on this panel, I'm going to show you something a bit special, a full application, because I want to turn it completely into rust, and we'll try to show you the whole process. Why? Because it takes a while, since real rust doesn't just appear like that, right? So we'll set up a camera on this process and try to document everything for you properly.
We need to be a bit patient, even in class. It's a bit like when you bake a cake. With the dough, you have to wait for it to rise. By rushing it, it doesn't turn out.
This is real, authentic rust, the real deal. I've stirred it, now let's go.
Did you sing?
Yes, Mina.
Wow, then it'll turn out brilliantly.
I've taken an oval 50 brush, my little tin well stirred. Remember that even if there are bits inside, as soon as you stir it, they dissolve, because the iron pigments are very fine. Now I'm applying the magic rust generously over this whole board. We can apply it once, or even twice,
But Elisa, a question.
Yes.
How long does it take for this iron, to turn into rust?
Well, I know you know, but thank you for the question, because we need questions.
Also for the courses, anyway, it's right to get an idea of the timing.
Very good. So, rust behaves differently depending on the humidity of the air, dryness, temperature, season, and the surface. Let's say a minimum of about 1.5 hours, up to a maximum of maybe 4, 5, or 6 hours. But within these 4, 5, or 6 hours, by spraying the activator several times, you get some really amazing rust.
When applying this, color rules apply, right? Even in summer, avoid direct sunlight, always in the shade, or it dries immediately.
Exactly, very good. It's something you should always remember. And also use a brush with fairly stiff bristles. It's really worth it. And keep it just for this, because since it contains iron pigments, it's very thick. Obviously, you shouldn't dilute it, because if you add water, you'll just make a mess, as we already know, and of course you should apply it as evenly as possible if you want to achieve an even rust effect. That way, it will really look like rust. Now, first question, can we speed up the drying of magic rust with a hairdryer?
Yes.
Let's go, let's dry it. The magic rust is dry, and now we start with the activator. Let's spray it. You know, Ale, the more you spray, the more the rust activates, and of course, it needs to be sprayed several times. So please, let's start applying it here on our surface. The activator weakens the rust underneath and starts its rusting process. Now let's go under our camera, leave our panel there, and document the whole process.
About an hour after and 2 sprays of activator, this is the result.
As you can see, the rust is already coming out.
You can't really control the rust. That is, you can certainly try to achieve a more even and smooth result by making sure to spray as evenly as possible. If, on the other hand, you create patches of activator by applying more product in some areas than others, you'll get these streaks, like here and here, where there are more spots of rust being activated. Here, instead, it was sprayed in a much more even way. Obviously, I'm not stopping now. I'll keep going, because I want to bring out a nice orange glow and I can still adjust my surface. So I recommend you be careful.
When you see it starting to activate, like right now, you can still work on it. Our patinas are here. Alloro and Cannella, do you like these shades I've chosen?
These are my colors. Look, with me you've really hit gold this time.
Good. Obviously, they're completely different from any shade that exists in the Magic Paint range.
Exactly. You don't have this green, or this one, despite creating some warm, rusty browns.
It was missing. So actually, whether you use a liquid wax, a solid wax, or Magic Paint colors to create this kind of effect, only the patina will give you this particular shade and this kind of finish. It wouldn't make sense for me to create a product in a shade we already have. I suggested to Ale that we create a base that's slightly more textured and worked. In this way, I think you'll be able to work with the patina even better, and you'll really see the patina settle into all the designs. This is a very beautiful stencil called Delabré. It already creates a Delabré effect for you, so it's like winning easily here because you've basically already got the Delabré section done. Why did we want this stencil? Because actually, it's not that easy to create a uniform effect on a wall, is it? One that really looks like a Delabré effect wall. Listen, since you're the artist here, do you want to explain to them what a Delabré wall is?
A classic Delabré wall is a wall with a distinctive surface texture that, in our case, is created by layering a textured paste using a stencil. However, the stencil isn't applied in its entirety, it's only used in specific, isolated sections. The tricky thing when doing Delabré, I've noticed, is that there's a tendency to apply this textured paste in blocks, and so you end up with a sort of postage stamp effect. But the beauty of the Delabré is precisely in blending several textures at once, because if you think about an old wall, it's clearly never very uniform.
It's chipped. There's something going on outside, something else inside.
This is perfect.
Always remember, this stencil has a front and a back, which you can see here. And it has a little step. This step that you can feel with your finger, it's better when you use the textured paste to place it underneath. There's also a piece here to help you lift it up and make sure to always secure it with masking tape. I've put a bit here and a bit there. I'll start, but then I'll let her do it because this is her job. So, I always use the spatula here because it helps me a lot and you never waste any product. But we also use the Cenerentola spatula because it leaves a slightly larger amount of product. And it's brilliant. Guys, always remember, it's better if, when using this type of spatula and this type of stencil, you obviously go over it, but always from one direction to the other. Meaning, if you start working like this, downwards, upwards, sideways, you'll end up getting a bit of product underneath the stencil. To be really precise, it's better to always go in the same direction, so to speak. Of course, if you need to do this to cover a little hole, that's fine. Now, Ale, you carry on. Do you feel like it?
Of course. I've finished applying the filler, the matte cream, but not over the whole stencil. I take it by the tab, lift it up, and let's see how it turned out. At this point, I reposition the stencil, but not consecutively. I leave a bit of space, do another coat with matte cream, then rinse it so I always have a clean stencil, and continue on the other two panels.
Ale, we've decided to apply royal green to our panels that have the stencil. You were torn between royal green and brocante, right? Why?
Because we saw that both look good, but royal green gives an even more distinctive effect. Then of course, at home the advice is to have all the magic paint colors and try them all, right? Today we're showing a color that goes really well with both oxidizing patinas.
With these oxidizing patinas, the base color is very important because if it's lighter or darker, it can obviously lighten or make the patina deeper and more striking, and it can also affect the tone. So the color we choose underneath is anything but trivial, absolutely not.
Obviously, we apply it pure and we also carefully rotate the brush, so the color penetrates deeply into where the textured stencil is.
One coat is enough.
Yes.
So let's give it a good coat and speed up the drying with a hairdryer. And then it's time to start having fun with the patinas as well. Cannella and Alloro need to be mixed very well, but after all magic paint products are highly effective. You know we love working with quality products without necessarily selling you primers. So the important thing is for you to understand that inside there are always very adhesive agents. So they always need to be mixed. Let's do it.
You can see that this product is runny.
Something very important. These are beautiful patinas, which add tone and create gorgeous bases, but they are completely liquid, so they actually cover a very high percentage. I don't want to give you a fixed percentage, because obviously it changes a lot depending on whether the surface is smooth, rough, textured, whether it absorbs more or less, whether it's a wall or a piece of furniture. So you can't really give a standard figure like you usually do with products. Let's say, like you do with other products. But I'm quite sure that with one coat you can easily cover at least 4, 5, or 6 square meters, if not more. I can tell you that for a piece of furniture, 1 can is more than enough. Now, I'm using the King. Ale is using the Elizabeth, so you can also see different applications with different brushes. I absolutely love the King brush. If you notice a slight smell of alcohol, it's because this patina isn't water-based, but alcohol-based. I specifically made it alcohol-based because it needs to be completely locked in and sealed with any magic paint protective finish. I couldn't have done this if it were a water-based product, because it would have moved under the protective layer. Instead, the fact that it's slightly alcohol-based means you can use it in loads of different ways and activate it with alcohol, but above all, you can stabilize it with any type of protective finish. Well done. Dry it, dry it. But Ale, I'd like to apply 2 coats here. Also because my panel will be just Cannella, and your panel will be only Alloro. Then there will be the other panel, which is a bit of a mix. I'll let Ale do this mix.
Actually, I'll start with Cannella. I'm going to mix them, not in the sense of blending them together, but rather that on the same board I'll use both colors. So in this case, I'm going with Cannella, applying it in a crossed way, still a bit rough, just as Elisa already taught us with King.
CDC style.
And I'll carefully fill in roughly half the panel. It also needs to look very natural, right? If you think about it, nothing in nature is the same, nothing is symmetrical.
Nothing is perfect. That's why it's perfect for us.
I'll create islands like this, and then I'll fill in the missing parts, even overlapping a bit with the previous ones. If by chance a few drops fall like this, it's nothing. Actually, we quite like it. I can actually spray the same droplets onto the previous color as well.
Let's intensify it.
Yes, adding more intensity.
Look at how beautiful this process is. With the same alcohol base, it blends in. Spectacular.
Here is a helpful little tip for you. If you want to achieve an even smoother blend between these two specific colors, just take a small piece of moly sponge. Carefully cut it into a manageable size. Put a bit of one of the two colors onto the sponge directly with the brush, and then gently dab a little bit at the exact point where the two colors meet. In this way, as it dries, you'll see a more even result, but even more so, when we go to activate the patina, they'll definitely blend and merge together much better.
At a certain point, you get this third color, which won't be Cannella nor Alloro, which is even cooler. It's very personal and gestural, so there is no point in overthink it. We give all the tools and then afterwards they do whatever they want. The important thing is that before doing the next step, it's nice and dry. What have we put in here?
Alcohol, 99 degrees.
No secret potion. You don't have to buy it from me. I don't sell alcohol, and I won't start now.
You could sell it though.
Am I selling Eskimo ice?
Yes.
So, alcohol 99 degrees, the same stuff you use quite happily to clean windows, just so you know. I've put it in this spray bottle, which you can also use for hair, for whatever you like, for plants. I like this spray bottle because it has a little valve you can adjust, and it's great because you can either spray a fine mist or just droplets. Why is it important to have the option to spray a fine mist as well?
Because that way we can achieve different effects.
And on the wall.
On the wall as well. Let's say in this case it's probably better to use the mist effect if you don't want drips. But if you do want more droplets, just turn the nozzle to the other side.
To splash a bit more to create those droplets. I prefer not using an uncontrollable vaporizer, but rather something you can manage in your own way. And again, there's alcohol in here, so you can also use the spray bottle just to clean windows, for example. I'll test it here. So I open up the little valve and try to see how much I like it. I like that it splatters quite a bit, so I'll open it a little more. This is how much it splatters. I make my board and you make yours. And you also do the mixed one. You started it, you finish it. There's no right or wrong. You know we always ask, what is right? There's no right or wrong. This is a patina that reacts to drops of alcohol.
So don't use acetone, don't use other solvents. Use alcohol.
It doesn't work with water, which is why we decided to make this alcohol-based patina, so that it can be protected with all the magic paint products, okay? So with all the protective products and the waxes, now I spray it the way I like, then you can do as you wish. Here, you need to be very careful, because depending on how the drops fall, in a few moments it will open up differently. Let's do a bit more. See here, there are bigger drops. You need to try to leave the light areas free and make sure the patina opens up. Here you can see some drops. It's starting to work, see? If you want, you can even add some bigger drops, and you'll see that in those spots it will start to open up even more. In this case, if you look here, there are little droplets that are starting to open up the patina and create a different effect. You just need to wait a little while for it to activate. What do you say if, while it's working, we show yours as well?
I'd say yes.
That way, meanwhile, we're here and they can record both our results. Obviously, my alcohol use differs from hers due to our different hands, so results may vary.
We're deliberately doing it differently. Look, I'll leave the same opening you made. I'm simply going to spread it. Spray it on generously, a bit more evenly. So there won't be any targeted drips. Whatever happens, happens.
Look at the lovely color it's making. Look how it opens up. Beautiful.
So here there's more than what you put on. This one really pulls more, but it's more even.
You see, it creates a tortoiseshell effect. Adding more enhances it further.
Then, of course, it'll settle a bit more inside the stencil.
Especially where there was more patina as well.
And in this case, as we will clearly see once it is completely dry, even the application of Alloro which was done more evenly, will produce a noticeably different visual effect compared to the Cannella, which was applied more unevenly.
Add some here. You see how long it takes to have an effect if you put on a little, but if you put on a lot, you see how much it is. Go on, work on mine, add some more if you like. Obviously, the stains made earlier, these big drops, stay there. They don't just disappear because everything you've created remains there. Okay, so it's not like these drops here are going to go away now. No, they just start to work at different times. Of course, now using a hairdryer to speed things up is a problem, because with all this amount of liquid you risk altering the drops, changing the patina, because it would end up looking like a watercolor effect. You need to take some time, be patient. Alcohol evaporates quickly, so it doesn't take long. If the smell bothers you, ventilate, it's necessary. This patina only works with alcohol. Perfect.
This is the effect we've achieved with the first coat of alcohol, and it's dry. Now we're going to apply a second coat, so it keeps working, digging in a bit more and creating an even more interesting texture. But if you like, you could already leave it as it is. We're deliberately showing you one more step now, so you have as many options as possible. So now I'm going to spray the alcohol again, but this time I choose not to spray it everywhere. I really like the way this part we did earlier has ended up looking, so I'll leave it exactly as it is for now and continue to spray a little bit more around it, still fairly evenly, but leaving some areas slightly lighter. At this point, I'll allow it to completely dry.
How lovely. What do you think? It's beautiful. Mine is still a bit damp because we've put on quite a lot of alcohol and it's only just starting to set now. I've also applied 2 coats and I put them on quite generously, and as you can see, the first layer has started to work and create these first big drops and the first marks on the patina. As Ale told you before, something very, very important. The more coats of patina you apply, the more you have to age it if you want the layers to show through. So I too, when it's dry, I'll spray a little alcohol. Mimi.
And cocoa.
Obviously, the effects obtained are completely different, also because she went about it much more delicately. In Piedmont, we say,
Juicement, right?
I applied it more heavily and reapplied it many times, and as you can see in some spots, you can find these orange, reddish stains, because I deliberately wanted to create build-ups, dips, especially where there are these big drips, and it corroded more. You might be wondering why I put green on if you can't see the green. 1, to create the base. 2, it's not that you can't see it. If I keep going spraying some alcohol and corroding the existing patina even more, the green will definitely come out. So, the more alcohol you use, the more you corrode the existing patina, the more you bring out the base color. I recommend, if you want the base color to show a lot.
Single coat of
Patina, okay. Now let's set them aside, also because I think the wood will dry well in the end and give an even more worn effect, and Ale is working on the third board. Did you spray it a second time and not show them?
No.
But it turned out cool.
But we'll show something else now. Yes, a little extra touch. We already like it as it is.
It's your choice. If you want to bring out the Delabré effect more, you can do something.
Yes, abrasive sponge. This is a 120 grit, a bit used as well. So it sands just a little bit. And I go slowly, with a circular motion, to bring out the textured stencil.
Let's say we did well earlier not to remove the little points that the textured stencil sometimes creates. They've come in handy because now they're coming out.
Exactly. Let's protect it with Jasmine wax.
Could I protect it with a matte, glossy, or satin finish?
We can. Maybe we'll do that on the other samples.
No, let's do the rusty one with matte coating. Matte because it wins. I want all other 3 with wax.
That's perfect. I'll go on. Make sure you always get plenty of wax on the brush. At most, just dab off a little. And then start spreading it. Here, I recommend spreading it while rotating a bit, so it really gets into the textured areas. And then we go over it to smooth it out. It really is quite a sight.
Because obviously it brings out all the layers of the patina. Yes, and it's a very beautiful effect.
And it saturates the colors, it's gorgeous. Well,
and even here, you have a glimpse of the base color, a bit of royal green from this fresh bluish tone. It's beautiful.
How wonderful.
As with all other surfaces protected with jasmine wax, remember, don't start massaging with the cloth straight away. You do that the next day, okay. So don't be in a hurry to start massaging the wax, because the wax needs to set, it needs to dry, and only then you can massage it. By doing it, you harden it, you strengthen it. I've already put the second panel here for you as well, so we can show it, also protected with wax. It's interesting to see how these color shades come out. What's more, if you touch it right now, you'll feel an extremely smooth, velvety surface, very pleasant to the touch. Today's result is this, but that's because we were very quick. We wanted to use the hair dryers a lot, so we dried it thoroughly. When you dry it a lot, you can get lots of lighter or darker shades coming out. On the other hand, when you let the rust activator do its job more slowly, this is the result you get, much more even shading. Whereas here, as you can see, we've alternated. Here, we've allowed the rust to have its natural effect more slowly, and here we've forced the drying with the hairdryer. You can see in some areas the reddish and orange parts, and in others it's darker. So don't expect the rust to always turn out the same. Because you have no direct control over the process, the activator triggers the rust and consistently produces unique and distinct shades.
It depends on the surface involved.
Exactly, this surface absorbs because there are 3 supports made of plywood after all. If you have a surface that doesn't absorb, it will definitely stay more on the surface. The activator will work differently again. Now, though, we'll protect them with a matte protective coating because I absolutely don't want to alter the beauty of these panels. We'll protect them with the matte protective coating, diluted very little. Make sure to spread it out well, and remember that if you see it looking slightly white, it's because of the matting agent. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a matte protective coating. Also remember that once it dries, it won't have this deep, wet look anymore, but will become much lighter, similar to how it was before. Smooth it out, because you shouldn't be able to see the brush strokes of the protective coating, and let it dry lightly. This restyling is also finished. Well, not just one, there are loads. We recommend one thing. Apart from courses where you have people work on panels to teach these techniques, when you're working on furniture with layers of materials, patinas, and products, you should take your time. You can't just do it Saturday morning and finish by Saturday evening, because rust needs time to react. If you keep trying to speed up drying, you'll probably end up wasting product too, because you're always there trying to dry it.
It's like bread. For it to rise properly and stay soft, you need to wait.
So please, you really shouldn't be in such a rush. Obviously, at a course with Alessandra, where she teaches you all the techniques for creating rust as well, you'll see panels with different finishes, using various materials. So you learn the technique. I'm really pleased with these new products. They are something exclusive that hasn't been seen yet in the world of restyling. Of course, there is already a similar rust product, but not in my version, which is super adhesive on all surfaces and where, with just 2 products, you get something completely rusted. Earlier, Emma was saying, what if I have an iron table? What do I need to do to make it go rusty?
We should use this specific one, I'd say. We use the activator, spray it on,
And it's rusted, then we seal it with the protective coat.
and we put a nice glass top on it. Thoughts?
If you put a glass top on a table, it's forever. So please remember, our products can also be used in other ways. Just like wax can be used on 1,000 different surfaces, an activator for rust like ours can also be used to activate something that's already made of iron, unprotected, unsealed, where you want to make the surface go rusty. We'll say goodbye now. As always, you can find the products we've used listed below in the description, with a link that takes you to discover the product and its features. And of course, the products we've used are available on the website.
www.magicpaint.it.
Retailers are listed online.
www.magicpaint.it in the retailers page.
Divided by
Region.
And where can't you find Magic Paint?
On Amazon. I have mentioned it as well. Goodbye.
See you at the next restyling.